Let me tell you something. I really like myself a nice van. Now, even though I don't have a Honda Odyssey or a Toyota Sienna myself, I really love vans because of their practicality, the ability to haul 8 people or more, and really nothing else can beat the size and versatility of a minivan. So when I found out that VW was bringing the microbus back, I fell in love. Unfortunately, on this Valentine's Day, we won't be smoking and falling in love, but we will be getting hella buzzed. So today we're going to take a first look and drive at Volkswagen's new electric van, the ID.Buzz. If you're not too well versed on VW vans, on another day I'd be totally down to talk about the deep history of the vans in the olden days up until now, but on a day that it's not snowing, and in another video we can do that. Otherwise, welcome to the new ID.Buzz. The last time that we've actually gotten a minivan from VW was the Crouton. It was really known as the VW Routan, which was based on the Chrysler Town & Country and Dodge Caravan. That thing was proper junk, and unfortunately I think it hurt VW more than helped them. However, as we fast forward nowadays, we have just gotten these ID.Buzzes. It's been a little while. I know the big dogs have driven it before me, but I'm glad that finally we're able to look at one today. These things are weird though, as they compete with not only normal minivans like the Honda Odyssey, Toyota Sienna, and Kia Carnival, but because it's not only more expensive, it's electric and 3 rows, it also competes with stuff like Volvo's EX90, Rivian's R1S, Kia's EV9, and other 3-row electric vehicles that are coming out. Even though we are matching, this isn't my personal ID.Buzz. This Buzz belongs to my friends at Oarsman Volvo VW of Bethesda, Maryland, my old stomping grounds. This one in particular is a 2025 ID.Buzz Pro S. The starting MSRP of this one, as it's sitting next to me, is $62,000. So you can see it's a lot more than an Odyssey or a Sienna. However, because of the aftermarket wrap, which makes me feel oh so lovey-dovey, this one is sitting at $70,000. I like it though. Even though it is snowing today, unfortunately, we do not have the dual motor 4Motion all-wheel drive model. This one is actually the single motor rear-wheel drive model, which is standard. As far as trim levels are concerned, VW is pretty simple with the ID.Buzz. We start at the Pro S, then we have the Pro S Plus with 4Motion, and then the First Edition. I believe next year the First Edition won't be available. I have to say I am proud of VW for recreating the van in this way and not making a recreation of the Routan. It's iconic. People look at this on the road, especially in this Pepto-Bismol color. And again, unlike the Odyssey or Sienna, this thing is full electric, and like I said earlier, this one is only the single motor rear-wheel drive model. Don't get too excited though. We won't see too much under the hood, or I guess snoot of this. Underneath the snoot, there really isn't too much. There are 2 ports for the air conditioning if you wanted to recharge it. There's washer fluid and ports where you can jump the 12-volt battery, but otherwise we don't have a frunk, but there's so much space inside of this van, it's not needed. As far as power figures are concerned though, this uses a 91 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack, and in this case it powers the single rear motor, which is 210 kilowatts. Those figures give this rear-wheel drive ID.Buzz a total system output of 282 horsepower and 413 pound-feet of torque. Of course, because it's electric, it uses a single-speed direct drive gearbox, and as it's sitting here in this configuration, VW says it should get about 234 miles of range. If you do want a little bit more power and extra traction, you can get the 4-wheel drive model, which has 2 motors. Of course, it is at a premium though. Thankfully, VW hasn't made charging much of a debacle either, but the range is the only problem. In weather like this, you'll probably see closer to 200 miles, but if you have great weather conditions and it's not too hot and not too cold, I've seen some reports of almost 300 miles of actual range from these things. But when it comes to charging, you can see the flap opens very quickly. As you can see, this thing still uses the same J1772/CCS combination instead of the modern Tesla NACS plug. VW says if you use the included charger that comes with this car, level 1, it'll take about 11 to 12 hours. If you use public charging, level 2, it'll take 3 to 5 hours depending on charge. And then, of course, the #1 advertised rate, if you use the level 3 CCS charging combination, you can charge this from 10 to 80% in 29 minutes. Not 30 minutes, 29. Even though this thing looks huge, it's only 195 inches long. Still shorter than the Honda Odyssey, which is 205 inches long. Also, like many others have said, in North America and Canada, we got the long wheelbase model of the ID.Buzz. Europe and other markets got a shorter version, and the way to tell both apart is the bigger rear door. The North American models get this big door and this sliding rear window. You can see this thing is sitting on its 20-inch alloy wheels, which are standard. You can actually take the black hubcaps off as well, but I do like this more classic VW look. Now back here, this is really where the action happens, because in the US, this is the best VW van that we've gotten, at least besides the really old ones. In Europe, for example, they have a whole assortment of full-size and medium-size vans that have huge trunks like this. But take a load, well, get a load of this. First, power tailgate, which is a huge tailgate, and it's some shelter, thankfully, so I won't get too cold. First of all, because this thing is electric, the rear motor and the battery live underneath the very bottom of the ID.Buzz, so we don't get the same deep well that we get in the gas-powered front-wheel drive minivan. However, we do get a boatload of space regardless. There's 18 cubic feet of volume behind the third row seat, which does slide forwards and backwards, and it also reclines. You can also completely remove the third row seat to get maximum storage capability, but if you fold this seat like this, it is actually very easy. No power seat, which is totally fine. You get 75 cubic feet of volume. I would imagine that's if you take the second, well, it's the third row seat out. If you decide to take out the third row seat and the second row seat and use this as an actual work van, you'll release 145 cubic feet of volume. And because this thing is a big box, it's even more usable. The floor is pretty much flat as soon as you take the seats out. VW did a good job in terms of trunk space back here. And even though it does sound kind of goofy, you can tow with your Buzz. VW says you can tow up to 2,600 pounds with your rear-wheel drive and 3,500 pounds with your 4Motion ID.Buzz. Just like other fancy minivans or just any modern minivan, we have power sliding doors. And you can see the wonderful brown interior on this model. Hopefully you can see me. There's just a lever on the very top of the seat like other vans. You just pull it and the whole assembly slides forward like this, giving you an abundance of legroom and access space. More legroom, it feels like, than a lot of the other vans out there. I'm 5'9". I have a foot of legroom behind the second row seat, and these people have so much legroom. The rear seats are comfortable. They do recline. There's also a cup holder on each side for each rear passenger, and also a USB Type-C port for each rear passenger as well. Thankfully, VW provides us with air vents on the ceiling, but it is very accommodating back here for a third row. In the second row seat of the Buzz, things get even better back here. These two rear outboard seats are heated, which is very nice on a day like today. This one, because it has the full bench seat in the second row, no armrest because it's a 60-40 split. The 40 split is on the passenger side. Thankfully, the seats back here are pretty soft. Honestly, more supportive and plush than some other vans. They're a little bit softer, I would say. Again, I'm 5'9", and you can see headroom back here. Crazy. It's consistent everywhere because the roof is just straight, and you can see the legroom that I have. I also appreciate that the floor is completely flat because this thing doesn't have an actual drivetrain or exhaust. I was surprised to see that there's a climate control on each side for each rear seat passenger. I don't think it's exactly 4-zone, but it's nice that Both sides have controls. And there is a whole lot of storage everywhere back here. In the doors, in the front seats, there's pockets where you can put your phone. There's map pockets under here. There's a hidden compartment behind the center console. It's really well done in here. Of course, the second row seats do slide fore and aft. They also recline just like the third row seats. So if you want more space in the trunk, you can do that while still having your passengers be comfortable too. I am so glad that I'm finally able to be inside. Welcome to the interior of the Buzz. If it will shut up. We're just about to get a snowstorm, but I wanted to be able to get a video in for Valentine's Day. First of all, I will turn on my front lights. I don't need my front defrost. When you're driving in the snow or the rain, you need your headlights. I'll turn my wipers on. We get the minivan style wipers, which is cool. I'll turn on my rear wiper as well. And now, you have to put yourself into drive, but welcome to the interior of this van. First of all, this is the key fob for the ID.Buzz. It's VW's modern key fob. You can see it has the sliding door buttons, the power tailgate, lock, unlock, and also the panic button as well. But because of this, as you could see, because this van is electric, you don't even need to push anything. I just put my foot on the brake and there's a weight sensor in the seat. So once the thing knows that you're in it and ready to go and buckled up, you're ready. There is a start-stop button as well. I have found that I have used it a few times just to keep the van running when I'm not sitting in the seat, but otherwise you don't really need that. I am going to turn on the climate control because it is cold. So you can see we have tri-zone automatic climate control in the ID.Buzz. Just like a lot of manufacturers nowadays, they're getting rid of buttons. So we have no physical controls for the climate besides these little touch sensitive dials over here. So the heated steering wheel has 3 different modes to it. I put it on level 2. The seat is heated as well. The driver and passenger side seats also do massage. That's actually standard on all Buzzes, but we are now ready to go. This thing has been pretty fun to drive. I will get out of here. I already have a little bit to say about VW's infotainment system, but that's just, it seems like something that's not gonna change for the time being. But welcome to the driving experience of the ID.Buzz. Unfortunately, it's been snowing for a little bit now, but we will still be able to see how the power is and such. I would hope that because school has not gotten out early, but I would hope that the roads are a little bit emptier. I'll let this Crosstrek go, and we can see how this 282 horsepower feels. Yeah, you know, it's quick. Don't expect this to be like a rocket ship. It's quick. It's a lot quicker than any other van that you'll see there, but because it's so refined and heavy, you don't really feel the speed too much. It's not like an overwhelming sense of acceleration. I would imagine the all-wheel drive model has more grunt and get up and go because that thing has like 500 pound-feet of torque, but this is pretty good. Upon first impressions, I did drive this to get to the parking lot that I filmed at, but otherwise, I kind of reserved most of my other judgments for right now. I like how this feels. There's another trendy electric vehicle that's going to turn on camera. What a shame. It's crazy in this area once that there's any rain. Are you letting me go? Thank you. Thank you. People let the bus go. That's fun. The road is a bit bumpy here, and it's comfortable. This has a long wheelbase, so it rides nice. There's really no complaints on my behalf. It certainly does some things better than some other vans. Right off the bat, it has a more substantial ride to it already. The batteries give this a low center of gravity, just like all EVs, of course. I really love how big the windshield is. I have so much visibility, so much. I love these little quarter windows over here as well. The brake pedal is the only thing that I would say I'm not too crazy about. At first, there's just a little bit of a delay. I have yet to try the one-pedal driving on this van. Right now, in this more normal mode, it certainly has a more laid-back braking feedback. It handles well, though. It's fun, and it feels safe. It feels heavy. Of course, I'm not really driving it that hard, but it tracks well. It feels like it has good traction, even though it's just the single motor rear wheel drive model. I really like it. It takes corners well. This thing really turns tighter than you would expect it to. Of course, it's not sporty, but under all circumstances, if you're parking or trying to just maneuver anywhere, it really does have a nice, easy to drive feeling. The steering has a nice weight to it. The throttle response is good, maybe a little bit touchy if you're first getting used to it. There's a man right there running with shorts. But on this windy road, I'm having a good time. Of course, I'm only doing 39, but still, it's quiet in here. There's a, minivan amount of road noise, but it's actually a little bit more refined and isolated than something like a Sienna, I would say. It is nice. You don't have the groaning 4-cylinder. Even that new Kia Carnival has the turbo hybrid 4-cylinder. I would honestly rather just have an electric van like this one. Like, this van made me think of my beloved Honda Odyssey. I don't own an Odyssey, but I just really love the Odyssey because I grew up with it. That thing has a great 3.5-liter V6. It's lively. It's fun to drive for a van, of course, for a van. But I feel like the V6 will go away. So I would rather have an electric Honda Odyssey over a 4-cylinder nonsensical Honda Odyssey. I just feel like just going to EV is a whole other level of refinement for a van, and I would rather do that instead of some useless 4-cylinder. This has a 3-spoked leather-wrapped steering wheel that you've seen on other VW products. Like I said, it is heated with 3 stages, so it is comfortable. Nice grip to the hand as well. There are buttons on it. The buttons on the left side control some of the audio and cruise control functions, and the buttons on the right side configure some of the display functions on the little gauge cluster. While we're talking about the gauges, you can see there's not a whole lot. It's just like the ID.4. Just enough information that I need. You just have the speedometer, range, and things like that. You can see where your GPS is going if you have a route set out. Behind the steering wheel are not the typical places for controls. On the left side of the wheel, you'll see the combination turn signal stalk and wiper stalk on this thing for the front and rear wipers. And on the right side, you'll see the shifter, which is similar to the ID.4. I like it, but after getting used to some of the other EVs that you can just slide, like click it into gear, it's a little bit more convenient rather than having to flick it into gear. You can also see, because this one doesn't have normal headlight controls on the stock, they're on the dashboard just like the ID.4 as well. Not too bad, but it does take a little bit of getting used to. Also have to get used to the window controls. You can see there's 2 buttons. They do work for the front windows, but if you hit that rear button, it engages the rear windows as well. So you can either do one or the other. Otherwise, all the physical controls are pretty well laid out in here. This van is comfortable. I really like the front seats. Like I said, they do heating, cooling, and massage. They also offer a fine amount of support, especially considering that this thing is a van. So we can see how the power is once more. I'll go into, so there is like a bit of a drive mode. Well, no, there isn't. Everything that you need is embedded in the screen. I want to give this the beans. I mean, I guess. That's funny, this thing has a kick down button. It gets to speed very easily. It's refined. It's much more, well, much less dramatic at accelerating than a gas-powered minivan, that's for sure. You don't hear or feel any of the vibrations and things like that. As far as the driving experience is concerned, I certainly do not have any complaints on my behalf. The main issue I have is with the infotainment. It just is a little bit hard to get used to. It's just not too well laid out. I don't want to get too distracted. We can see how this thing handles a U-turn. If it was less populated, I'd get the tail out. And you can see how easy it is to just pull away. It's good. It gets the highway speeds nice. On the highway, it feels really good. I would see why this would be a good road tripper in my head. If you're okay with having to stop every 200 miles or less, then it's fine, but I would see how it would get annoying. Ah, I see. So if you go into B mode, that turns on the regen braking. I don't think I would necessarily call it one pedal drive, but it works almost like it. You can talk to this thing. This has a name, IDA. You can adjust the climate control and do a bunch of other nonsense with it, but it's one of the things I don't think I'd use myself. Again, there's me getting distracted, but we can talk about the main piece of this vehicle, this huge display in the middle here. It does support Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and you know, the interface itself is reasonably responsive. These are my first impressions as well, but I just feel like they could have done this a little bit better. Because this home button down here doesn't do what you would think it would do. You have to go up to the apps here, and then you can go through the different things. Drive mode is in another page. I'll go into sport. The steering firms up a little bit, you know, the car becomes to feel a little bit more lively. Of course, it is a van, so don't get too excited with your sport mode, but at least it does add a little bit of character to this thing. I can feel the throttle response and the steering improves. Unfortunate, we're just stuck behind scared people like this though. I don't even feel like I need sport mode in this van, just because it drives well as it is. I can immediately feel the steering lighten up a bit, and it just feels like the chassis overall kind of softens. Otherwise, as you can see, there's a whole lot of storage in this van as well. The center console is removable, so you can have access to walk to the rear seat passengers. You can also slide these cup holders out. There's a bunch of configurations for this. Plenty of storage in the door cards, and also built in the dash. There's 2 USB Type-C ports and a wireless charger. I also like how VW put USB-C ports in the passenger doors of this thing as well. To sum things up, I really do like this van, but the infotainment system is just a big crutch for me. I feel like you can certainly learn how it works. It is a little bit more counterintuitive than not. Otherwise, this thing is fun to drive, it's comfortable, it's good. And that, my friends, concludes our first time with the new VW ID.Buzz. I knew I liked it before I drove it, and in person, it's so fun to drive. Even on a snowy, gloomy day like today, it just put a smile on my face. I hope you enjoyed this video though, before my fingers really start to get blue and cold. I appreciate you hanging out with me on this snowy day. Enough of me rambling. Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, peeps.